Paliagoda Fish Market closed down abruptly following the discovery of 49 COVID-19 patients. Traders and customers directed to quarantine centres. Quarantine curfew imposed to the entire Gampaha district with effect from 10 p.m. today. Debate on the second reading of the 20th Amendment commences.
ඇයි ඔබතුමා මේ ඉන්න අග්‍රාමාත්‍යතුමාගේ බලතල සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම කප්පාදු කරලා ඒක මම බලා ගන්න මම කියලා හරි පාඩිය
Stern action will be taken if the ban on dual citizens entering the parliament is lifted, a warning from Venerable Muruthettuwe Anandathero and other national organizations. SLFP engage in emergency talks at the Abherame temple.
කිසිම රහස් සාකච්ඡාවක් නැහැ.
A very good evening to you. You're watching Prime Time News on News First with the current COVID situation in the country and the updates with regards to the 20th Amendment and the debate in Parliament. Tonight's news bulletin will be an extended one. We urge our viewers to stay with us till 9:55 as we keep you updated about what happened throughout the day. In local news, several Grama Niladhari divisions of the Kalutara district have been named as isolated areas effective immediately. This is confirmed by the Department of Government Information. The areas are Gorakgoda, Beragama, Dapiligoda and Kakulandara North in the Agalawatta Divisional Secretariat and Bellana in the Palinanura Divisional Secretariat. The number of COVID-19 patients identified today stands at 109. Commander of the Sri Lanka Army and the head of the Presidential Task Force to combat COVID-19, Lieutenant General Shavendra Silva. 49 of them are employees at the Paliagoda Fish Market, while 37 are cases reported from quarantine centres and 23 were close contacts. According to the Government Information Department, the number of COVID-19 cases from the Minuwangoda cluster stands at 2,451. With today's increase, the total number of COVID-19 cases in the island stands at 5,811. 2,297 patients are currently receiving treatment under medical care. 3,501 patients have recovered and have been discharged from hospital. Quarantine curfew has been imposed in the Gampaha district, as we saw in the headlines, with effect from 10 p.m. tonight to 5 a.m. on Monday the 26th of October. Police said the decision to impose curfew was reached after COVID-19 cases were reported from the area. According to Army Commander Lieutenant General Shavendra Silva, who is the head of the National Operations Centre for the Prevention of COVID-19, 109 cases of COVID-19 was reported as of 5 p.m. today. Meanwhile, the fish market in Paliagoda was shut down abruptly.
The Paliagoda Fish Market was closed down this morning after 49 traders at the market tested positive for COVID-19. On the 19th of October, PCR tests were carried out on 105 individuals at the fish market and its results were released this morning. In response, authorities decided to close down the fish market at around 10:30 this morning. At the time of shutdown, approximately 1,000 individuals, including traders and customers, were present at the premises.
We must record all information about these individuals. We will carry out PCR tests on a selected group. We must first identify those who had contact with those who tested positive for the virus. Everyone is at risk.
After conducting PCR tests, a group at the Paliagoda Fish Market were directed to quarantine centres in Jaffna and Kopai with the intervention of the army.
With the imposition of the quarantine curfew in the Gampaha district from 10 p.m. tonight, people in areas where quarantine curfew is not in effect were seen gathered near shops and fuel stations. How is the quarantine curfew being implemented in the Gampaha district?
All residents in the Gampaha district must remain indoors during this time period, and no one will be permitted to travel unless under exceptional circumstances. For instance, if a person suddenly falls ill and shows symptoms that are not related to COVID-19, such individuals will be permitted to travel to the nearest hospital. Expectant mothers will also be permitted to travel to the hospital.
Is travelling allowed through the Gampaha district?
However, no vehicle is permitted to stop inside the Gampaha district, even along by roads. People cannot board or leave a vehicle passing through the Gampaha district under exceptional circumstances such as engine failure. Strict legal action will be taken against anyone who stops a vehicle inside the Gampaha district, and the vehicle will be seized by Sri Lanka police. Vehicles are permitted to travel along the Colombo-Kandy route, Colombo-Nigambo route, the road towards Chilao via Kochikade, and the road to Giriula on the Colombo-Jayala route.
සියලු මාර්ග හරහා ගමන් කරන්නට හැකියාවක් ලැබෙනවා. නමුත් එම වාහන නැවැත්වීමට හැකියාවක් ලැබෙන්නේ නැහැ.
Can workers employed in the factories in the Gampaha district report to work?
මෙම ගම්පහ දිස්ත්‍රික්කය තුල
There are many factories and companies belonging to the Board of Investment operating within the Gampaha district. Factories can only operate on the instructions given by the health authorities. Factories must employ the service of a transport company to transport its employees required to work and ensure all health guidelines are followed.
අත්සෝදා ගැනීම, ඒ වගේම සෑම පැය දෙකකට වරක්ම උෂ්ණත්වය පරීක්ෂා කිරීම මේ සියලු කටයුතු සිදු කළ යුතුයි.
Issuing a media release, the Board of Investment of Sri Lanka has ensured the operations of the BOI industries located within the Gampaha district will continue without any interruptions during the curfew imposed period. The release adds the functions of the companies in Katunayaka, Biyagama, Watupitivala, Malvatta and Mirigama export processing zones will continue while adhering to strict guidelines issued by the Ministry of Health. Finally, the communique noted that the BOI is currently in the process of issuing required curfew passes based on the instructions on the BOI website, which is www.investsrilanka.com.
What is the situation in other areas?
One stall at the Meegoda Economic Centre was closed today after one of its employees tested positive for COVID-19. The infected individual is a resident of 3rd Lane, Gaminipura, Meegoda. The Fort police station that was temporarily shut down after a police officer tested positive for COVID-19 was reopened for normal operations this morning. Police media spokesperson DIG Ajit Rohana said the Fort police station was opened at 9 a.m. today after the premises was disinfected. 2 residents of Moratumulla and 5 residents of the Kotalavala railway quarters were directed to quarantine last night after several individuals who attended a wedding in Divulapitiya tested positive for COVID-19. Curfew continues to be in effect in the Kuliyapitiya, Pannala, Giriulla, Narammala and Dummalasuriya police divisions in the Kurunegala district. Accordingly, all shops and business outlets in the respective police divisions remain closed. Our correspondent said a special bus service was organized by the Kuliyapitiya depot to provide transport to students sitting the advanced level examinations.
මේ අවස්ථාවේදී අපි අධික නීතිය දමලා තියෙන්නේ අත.
We do not hope to inconvenience the general public by imposing curfew. We have done it solely to reduce the travel and ensure social distancing is maintained. The support of the people is of utmost importance in this endeavor. We have imposed curfew in a manner which would not cause a major disruption to the lives of the people. However, travel restriction will apply island-wide. Do not travel unnecessarily. There are no physical lectures at universities at present or at any schools. They are on holiday. People are using it as an opportunity to travel around. Do not do that.
නොඑක් විදිහේ විනෝද ගමන් යන්න. ඒ වගේ දේවල් කරන්න එපා.
COVID-19 has spread rapidly in Kuliyapitiya, Bingiriya and Dummalasuriya. Now this has escalated to the extent of a community spread. What proper steps will you take to prevent this cluster spread becoming a community spread?
නතර කරන්නට මොකද්ද ගන්න විධිමත් ක්‍රියාමාර්ග?
20 සංශෝධනයේ
With the proposal of the government to debate the 20th amendment to the constitution in parliament, the debate on the health ministry, which was scheduled to be on the 22nd, was abandoned. We would appreciate if this debate could be given to us at least on the 23rd of Friday of this month.
මම හිතන්නේ වඩාත් හොඳයි.
කතානායකතුමා පක්ෂනායක රැස්වීමක් කැඳවුවොත් අද දිනේම අපි අද දිනේම කැඳවනවා.
තව දුරටත්
The community physicians have not informed us at any point that the virus has spread at a community level. Every point you bring up is interconnected. When our opposition leader was identified as a second phase contact, we gave him the necessary instructions within a few hours as to how he can be safe and not spread the virus. Honourable Speaker, that is how good our officials at the epidemiology unit and the Ministry of Health are. Honourable Speaker, it was our opposition leader who was identified as a second phase contact.
ඒවෙන් රැකිලා ඉන්න ඕනි කියන ආකාරය.
ගරු කතානායකතුමනි
ගරු කතානායකතුමනි විපක්ෂ නායකතුමා තමයි අපිට දෙවෙනි පෙළ ආශ්‍රිතයෙක් විදිහට අඳුර ගන්න ලැබුණේ.
මම ගරු ඇමතිතුමීට කියන්න කැමතියි.
I would like to tell the Honourable Minister that the instructions we received were properly followed by us. That is not the issue here. She claims that there is no community spread at the moment. What lies? The GMOA says that there is.
ව්‍යාප්තියක් තිබෙනවයි කියලා.
පක්ෂනායක රැස්වීමේදී කතා කළා තීන්දුවක් ගනිමු ඊළඟ දිනේ. ඊළඟ සැරේනෝ.
ගරු සෞඛ්‍ය ඇමතුමිය
Honourable Minister of Health, I would like to bring to your attention the point raised by our opposition leader. Try out the medication he recommended once.
එතුමා බෙහෙතක් නිර්දේශ කළ දෙනවා පැකඩිල්.
පක්ෂනායකතුමා
බලන්නකෝ ඒකවත්.
මුළු රටේම
Honourable Speaker, a critical health issue has arisen in the country that is understood by the GMOA, but the Minister of Health is incapable of understanding it because she does not want any proof that she has been unsuccessful in this endeavour.
ප්‍රදර්ශනය කරන්න කැමති නැහැ. සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස
When Sajid Premadasa campaigned as a presidential candidate, he promoted a brand on the internet. All of you would realize the fate of this country if a person like that had become the president of the country.
තුනනම් රටට ඇති වෙන තත්ත්වය ඔබතුමාට තේරුම් ගන්න පුළුවන්. මේ හැමදේම
All those proposals were made with good intentions. I merely suggested them. But what has happened now? All the PCR machines have broken down. Not enough PCR tests are being carried out at the moment.
එතුමියගේ මැෂින් එක මාස 3
It took us more than 95 days to carry out the first 50,000 tests. But we do have to remind you that we have done more than 100,000 tests within 7 days after the discovery of the Minuangoda cluster. We have also built 21 new laboratories.
කලුතෙන් ඇදුවා කතානායකතුමනි.
අපි නෙවෙයි මාධ්‍ය ඉදිරියට ගිහිල්ලා කිව්වේ දැන් ඉතින් මැතිවරණේ තියන්න පුළුවන් නේ කොරෝනා ඉවරයිනේ. ඒක අපි නෙවෙයි කිව්වේ. ආයෙ එන්නේ වෙනද? ඒ කාලේ 50
Not a single case was reported from the community. Even you were roaming around without a mask during the time of the election. At that time, there was no community spread in our country.
මුනේ නෑ කොරෝනා රෝගේ.
මම වගකීමෙන් කියනවා මගේ මැතිවරණ ව්‍යාපාරය ක්‍රියාත්මක කරනකොට පවිත්‍ර ඇමතිතුමිය මාත් එක්ක වටේ ගියේ නැහැ. මම මාස්ක් ඇන්නද නැද්ද කියන්න. එතුමිය මාත් එක්ක
හරි ඔය කතා වෙනම කතා කරගන්න.
With those views expressed in Parliament with regard to COVID-19, let me now shift your attention to the 20th Amendment. The parliamentary debate on the second reading of the 20th Amendment to the Constitution commenced today. The constitutional amendment was presented for the second reading by Justice Minister, President's Counsel, Ali Sabri.
ජනමත විචාරණයකට යාමට
There are only two clauses which cannot be secured through a referendum. They will be amended according to the Supreme Court determination. Apart from this matter, we have listened to the people's concerns and have restricted the emergency bills to natural disasters and national security. We will do the necessary amendments. With regard to national audits, we have re-established the provisions including the 19th Amendment. We have also proposed to restrict the number of cabinet ministers to 30 and non-cabinet ministers to 40.
30කටත් කැබිනට් නොවන മന്ത്രിවරුන් 40කටත් සීමා කරන්නත් අපි යෝජනා කරලා තියෙනවා.
අපට පුවත්පත් වලින් දැන
Newspapers allege that the government is attempting to present facts that were not included in the draft constitution as amendments. Is this true?
ජය යෝජනා කරනවායි කියලා. එහෙම මොකුත් නැද්ද?
එහෙම කිසිවක් නැහැ.
There is no such thing taking place. Today we will present the proposals made at the committee stage. The Supreme Court has identified into which areas these matters have been connected to. For these areas, there will be no amendment.
ශේෂ්ත්‍ර කීයකටද මේක සම්බන්ධ කියලා ඒ ශේෂ්ත්‍ර වලට අනුකූල අනනුකූල කිසිවක් අපි ඉදිරිපත් කරන්නේ නැහැ.
ඉදිරිපත් කර තිබෙන
In addition to the amendments that have been presented, Are there any other amendments the government is planning to put forward?
අද ලබා දීලා තියෙන එක සම්පූර්ණයෙන් ඉදිරිපත් කරලා තියෙන එක හිටපු ජනාධිපතිතුමා
What has been presented today is the complete amendment. Even former President Maithripala Sirisena and former MP Jayapathi Vikramaratne are of the view that the 19th Amendment to the Constitution should be abolished. So why should we stick to something that is of no use? If the factions involved in implementing the 19th Amendment say it should be abolished, why are we stressing on this matter so much?
වෙච්ච මිනිස්සු මෙහෙම කියනවා නම් අපි මොකද්ද මේක ආරක්ෂා කරන්න මෙච්චර දඟලන්නේ?
ඇයි ඔබතුමා මේ ඉන්න
The powers of the Prime Minister has been curtailed by the 20th Amendment to the Constitution.
මම බලා ගන්නම්. මම කියලා. හරි.
I will take care of that. Sit down. The Prime Minister is given the power by the people and not via the Constitution. If our Prime Minister has no issue with that, what is the opposition worried about?
නැත්තම් ඕගොල්ලෝ කිඹුල් කඳුළු හෙලන්න කියලා අපි අහන්න කැමති.
විපක්ෂ නායකතුමා
බලය ලැබෙන ජනතාවගේ එතුමා තමයි මේ රටේ ජනතාවගේ හදවතේ ජනාධිපති. මම ඔබතුමාගෙන් අහනවා ඔයිට වඩා බලයක් ඔබතුමාගේ පියා මේ රටේ අගමැති හැටියට අවුරුදු 11 තියෙද්දි තිබුණේත් ඔය බලයම තමයි. ඔබතුමාගේ පියා නාමමාත්‍රික අගමැති කෙනෙක්ද? නෑනේ.
මගේ පියා අවුරුදු 10 මාරක්
My father was the appellation Prime Minister for more than 10 years. I, as the leader of the opposition, worked alongside Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa in the Constitutional Council. Put forward a proposal which brings respect to your Prime Minister. The 20th Amendment to the Constitution has turned the Prime Minister into a simple peon. Refrain from making Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa into a peon.
තමුන්නාන්සේ එතුමාව පියන් කෙනෙක් කරලා තියෙන්නේ. මම යෝජනා කරන්නේ ගරු මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ මැතිතුමාව පියන් කෙනෙක් කරන්න
ඔබතුමා පිළිතුරු දෙන්න.
අධිකරණ ඇමතිතුමා මේ
The Justice Minister is in the process of tabling the act. Why is the opposition leader interrupting him? There is ample time to discuss this matter. We should not allow any interruptions.
මම කරන්නේ අගමැතිතුමාගේ අයිතිවාසිකම් ආරක්ෂා කරන එක.
ඒක මේගොල්ලන් කරගනි.
අපි කරගන්නම් ඒක.
හරි හරි.
අපි එතකොට ජාතික ආරක්ෂාව
If the economy has crippled, national security has weakened, and the number of drug traffickers have increased, what is the point of the 19th Amendment? I would like to conclude saying that the 20th Amendment does not include anything harmful to the people of this country and will only create a more efficient framework in which the government could operate.
කියන එකත් ප්‍රකාශ කරමින් මම නිහඬ වෙනවා.
At this decisive moment, I request all party leaders in Parliament to allow the parliamentarians in their respective parties to vote based on their conscience. The post of Prime Minister has been severely undermined through this amendment. Think about it. I believe that the Prime Minister is on our side in this aspect. Mark my words. The ones who raise their hands in favour of the 20th Amendment are the ones who would face the repercussions of it. We would be sidelined in the international arena if we pass laws of this nature. What did Bandaranaike say when the 1978 Constitution was about to be passed? She pointed out that Hitler used the Constitution of the Weimar Republic to destroy the state apparatus. The first thing Hitler did was to acquire all powers of the Chancellor, who served as chief executive and the head of the cabinet. There is evidence to show that this was what Bandaranaike said with regard to the 1978 Constitution. Therefore, we must not follow examples like Hitler or Mugabe. We must follow personalities like Nelson Mandela and the South African Constitution.
The 20th Amendment does not aim at prolonging the existence of the Constitution. Its purpose is to facilitate administrative activities of this country until a new Constitution is brought forward to uplift the country. We are not bringing forward the 20th Amendment by exerting political pressure or by entering into political deals to obtain support. That is why diverse views are being expressed regarding this amendment within our camp as well. Did this happen when the 19th Amendment was brought forward? The Mahasangha were not given a chance to comment on the 19th Amendment. I held the presidency twice under the existing constitution. We would have had to stop our fight against those who switched sides in Parliament in 2016. It is the president who is responsible for national security and the unitary nature of this country. The CID that arrested Rishad Badiuddin had released Rishad's brother, who was arrested on charges of maintaining links with terrorists. That cannot be stopped by anyone. Those who are opposing the 20th Amendment and voice their objections against the 19th Amendment are assuming that a country that is free of corruption was built by establishing audit commissions. They say that the commission had the power to perform audits on the Presidential Secretariat and the Prime Minister's office as well. However, were audits carried out on the Presidential Secretariat and the Prime Minister's office in an independent manner? Was the Election Commission independent? Can this House agree that its conduct was independent? There is a provision restricting the number of cabinet ministers to 30. However, the highest number of ministers were appointed under the 19th Amendment. Therefore, we wish to request the opposition to think about these matters and to express their support towards this amendment.
All developed countries are moving forward with the concept of good governance. I wish to state that these countries have been developed using such a constitution and not by something similar to the 20th Amendment that vests all powers with one individual. We rectified the issues that were created through the 17th and the 18th Amendments. I too was part of that during that time. I apologized afterwards. A dangerous feature of this amendment is providing a parliamentary council instead of a constitutional council. I wish to remind Professor G.L. Pires that he was one of the individuals who mooted the concept of constitutional councils in Sri Lanka. The other individual was R.I.T. Allas. His son Tiran Allas is in the House. If the executive, legislature and the judiciary are not allowed to function as separate entities and instead amalgamated into one pillar, the country will not be able to move forward in a balanced manner. This is just like the three-stone cooking stove.
The former president is saying that he did not have the opportunity to rule the country properly or to protect it. What more evidence do we need against the 19th Amendment? What do those who support the 19th Amendment have to say about it? The 20th Amendment is being brought forward to rectify this situation. In keeping with the Supreme Court ruling, we will be able to pass the provisions in the 20th Amendment in Parliament. We have not introduced anything new to this.
Although the provisions concerning dual citizenship were brought forward targeting Gotabaya Rajapaksa, he managed to evade that obstacle. We need individuals with dual citizenships to be incorporated into the administration of our country. I do not view this as a positive feature of the 19th Amendment. They brought this to create a trap. We must use that provision on behalf of the sovereignty of the people.
I do not know how his conscience speaks. He was the only one who brought up the topic of dual citizenship. Will the country be benefited by introducing this provision on dual citizenship? If they are commenting widely on the heritage of this country and on working for this nation, how unfortunate is it to see that they are passing the laws that would allow dual citizens to enter parliament or to become a president of this country?
The 19th Amendment is a matter of the past. The 20th is about the present. What are we doing now? We are spending our time to vent out our political anger towards each other. However, what is the purpose of this House? I wish to propose that the attention of this House must be diverted towards discussing the need of a new constitution by understanding the reality.
This is a dangerous amendment. Why can't we introduce a fresh constitution? This government will not collapse anytime soon. As someone who was on your side and who toiled hard to bring you into power, do not make this mistake. If you do, you will have to apologize to the country like D.E.W. Gunasekara did.
The SLPP obtained 59.9% of the votes at the general election. Even if they add up the parties that are hanging on to them, it will make up to 60%. Where is the 66.6%? Where is the two-thirds majority? When you consider the 145 plus 4 more, it only comes up to 149. Unless they present them with a briefcase full of money and buy them over, they cannot pass this amendment. We will be able to find out tomorrow if there are such people. All 225 of us should question ourselves as to whether we are ready to sacrifice the mandate given to us by the people.
The 19th Amendment states Parliament cannot be dissolved until it fulfills 4.5 years. What we understood was that it has been reduced to 2.5 years through the 20th Amendment. However, what you have presented here, Honourable Minister, states that if the appropriation bill is defeated twice, the President will have to dissolve Parliament.
ජනාධිපතිවරයාට පාර්ලිමේන්තුව විසිරුවා හරින්න පොඩක් ඉන්නකෝ කරුණාකරලා අහගෙන ඉන්නකෝ කරුණාකරලා අහගෙන
ඔබතුමාගේ කතාවේදී කියන්නේ ඒක
ඊට පස්සේ ජනාධිපති
Furthermore, it states, only if the president dissolves parliament will there be an opportunity for the parliament to be dissolved after 2.5 years.
හරියොත් පමණයි ඊළඟ පාර්ලිමේන්තුව විසිරවන්න බැරි අවුරුදු දෙකමාරක්
ඔබතුමායි කිව්වා. ඔව් අලි සබ්රි අමතුමා උත්තර දෙන්න.
ඒ සියලු දේවල් සටහන් කරගෙන අපි පිළිතුරු කකාවේදී ප්‍රකාශ කරන්නම් ඡන්දෙට පෙර කරුණා කරලා ඒක එහෙම එකක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. අවුරුදු දෙකමාර වෙනකන් යනවා.
මේ 20 වෙනි සංශෝධනයේ තියෙන්නේ
This does not include the promises made to the Supreme Court. The mandate given was that the President cannot dissolve Parliament unless it has functioned for 4.5 years. You have reduced it to 1 year. The Supreme Court ordered for it to be increased to 2.5 years. What this states is completely contrary to it. What this says is unless the President dissolves Parliament after losing the appropriation bill twice, Parliament cannot be dissolved until 2.5 years lapse. What does that mean? No one mentions such a thing. This means if the Parliament functions through its full tenure, the President can dissolve it within 24 hours.
පාර්ලිමේන්තුව විසිරවන්න බෑ කියලා අවුරුදු දෙකමාරක් යනකම්. ඒ මොකද්ද? එහෙම එකක් ගැන කවුරුත් කතා කරේ නැහැ. ඒ කියන්නේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුව
I do not think anyone of the 225 here will raise their hand to it. I am glad Minister Ali Sabri met me and he admitted there was a technical issue there. He told me it will be rectified during the committee stage. We do not want to get into an acrimonious debate. Instead, it is better to discuss this and solve it diplomatically.
එකත් විදියට යම්කිසි දෙයක් සාකච්ඡා කරලා හරි වැරදි තේරුම් අරගෙන හරි දේ කරන්න.
Meanwhile, information on incidents that supposedly took place among parliamentarians was also revealed in parliamentary debates today. We heard that a scuffle had been started by MP Jayantha Katagoda. He started a small canvassing campaign within Vimal Veeravancha's ministers, asking them to oppose the dual citizenship clause. It was reported on C News. Minister Vimal Veeravancha is the one handling this thing. He had gone up to Mahinda Rajapaksa and told him that Jayaratna Katagoda had done something inappropriate by causing conflict among their ministers. And today, MP Jayaratna Katagoda, you attempted to attack Minister Vimal Veeravancha, didn't you? Minister, please, don't wash other clothes. If you are talking about rumors, don't include people's names.
The National Organisation and Progressive Forces, led by Venerable Muruthettuwe Anandathero and Venerable L.A. Gunawansa Thero, further solidified their stance on dual citizenship. Theros invited SLFP General Secretary Dayasiri Jayasekara and a few seniors of the party to the Abherama Temple in Rajakiriya this afternoon for an urgent discussion.
There is no secret discussion. The Abherama Temple was one of the front runners in bringing this government to power. Our Venerable Thero requested the SLFP that he wants to discuss with a few of us, that he wanted to express his concerns. We hope to discuss these points raised with the government and take the necessary steps for a proper course of action. Yes, our Mahasangha has all the right to point out flaws in the government they helped to form in the first place. We will support it. At many occasions we have raised concerns regarding most of these amendments. We didn't take those to the media. As a party, we have internally approached the Honourable President, the Prime Minister, and informed them regarding the necessary amendments. We believe that we can pass this amendment without an issue. There is no problem. Although they are opposed to this, this is a time when we have to commit as a party to do our duty, to proceed forward, to protect the government and to protect the country. We will stand with our decision till the last moment. We also need an opportunity to do that. We have a duty as political parties to pay attention to the concerns of the people and national movements. There is absolutely no reason for the 20th to be defeated. We have the required amount of votes, but there is room for changes for the benefit of the country in the future with the concerns raised by the people through national movements, the Mahasangha and religious leaders. Like what happened recently, I think we have hope for a few more amendments. Representatives from the SLFP participated at the working committee meeting held at the party headquarters before departing to the Abhiramaya. The working committee met under the auspices of the party chairman Maithripala Sirisena. We discussed regarding the approval for disciplinary inquiries of party members, including Pradeshya Sabha councillors who violated party rules during the previous election. We concluded the meeting after discussing that. The vote on the 20th is tomorrow. We discussed our committee report because we appointed a committee with 10 members. We reported to the President and the Prime Minister. We discussed that we have to go for a proper course of action which matches the people's opinions.
මේ ආණ්ඩුව හදන්නට මේ ආණ්ඩුව පත් කරගන්නට ජනතා බලවේග
We supported the ruling party to come into power. Now the people in turn are questioning us about the problems that have arisen. We are happy that the government listened to us and amended 3 areas that were quite concerning. However, we cannot be happy about the proposal on removing the barrier on dual citizenship. We worked hard in ensuring the present government was elected to power, so we too have the power to oppose any decision, law or idea that will not suit our country. We urge the President to listen to the Mahasangha. Initially, we wanted the ruling party to withdraw the 20th Amendment. We will not stop the struggle until the proposal on removing the barrier on dual citizenship is withdrawn. We will not back down without any reason. We helped form a government with a 2/3 majority. We are the ones who formed the procession, but today we are not part of this procession. We are mere spectators. When we see the broken drums, torn clothing and everything out of place, we cannot continue to watch. It is a shame. So we advise those with broken drums and torn clothes to make things right. If the dual citizens who claim they love this country so much want to join politics, why can't they renounce their dual citizenship and return to Sri Lanka? The government must listen to us.
ජනතාවට ආදරේ නම් ඕක මොන බම්බුවත් ඕක වීසිකල් එන්න බැරිද? රටේ ප්‍රගතිශීලී දේශප්‍රේමී ජාතිප්‍රේමී භික්ෂුන් වහන්සේලා කියන දේ මේ රජය ඇසිය යුතුයි.
After President Gotabaya Rajapaksa took oaths as the president of this country in Anuradhapura, the bhikkhus were the ones who praised the president. We believe we took the right decision back then, and we still think we took the right decision now. The president still has the opportunity to make things right. The president and state leaders must keep this in mind.
තවම හරි කියලා. තවම එතුමාට ඉඩ තියෙනවා. ඒ තිබ්බ ප්‍රාර්ථනාව ඉෂ්ට කිරීමේ අවස්ථාව දීලා තියෙනවා. එනිසා ඒක රජයත් රාජ්‍ය නායකනුත් හොඳින් හිත තබා ගත යුතුයි.
The National Academic Bhikkhu Forum, led by Venerable Medagoda Abethissa Thero, presented several recommendations on a number of changes which should be made on the 20th Amendment. Here is the stance the Venerable Thero bears. The recommendations we have provided and the recommendations expressed through the Supreme Court's determination should be taken into account and include them in this amendment. We sincerely request for the clause regarding emergency bills be revoked. By attempting to pass the emergency bills, the needs of the people will be ignored and the intentions of international organizations will be fulfilled. The dual citizenship clause should definitely be removed. If people with divided loyalties are created through this, it would be a major downfall. It would severely affect the sovereignty and integrity of the nation. Do not deceive the people and attempt to pass a harmful amendment. Our wish is for a virtuous amendment to be brought forward. When talking about the dual citizenship issue, during our discussions regarding this with the President, he ensured it will be removed. However, since this was an act which was done to exact revenge from the Rajapaksas, he feels it should be left in the amendment. We mentioned that matter earlier as well because the constitution cannot be changed targeting certain people. We are not satisfied with removing regulations imposed on dual citizens targeting one person.
ද්විතීය පුරවැසි භාවයට අදාළ නීති පනත් අයින් කරනවායි කියන එකට අපි සෑහීමකටපත් වෙන්නේ නැහැ.
A media briefing was organized today by the People's Movement to defeat the hysteria of despotism.
The process that is underway is an attempt to consolidate a dictatorial rule by passing it as the law. On the other hand, the government is engaged in an act of handing bags of money to MPs to gain their support and has also reached an agreement with the UNP to stop their parliamentary seat being filled. They are also creating obstacles to stop the parliamentary seat of the Aphe Janabala Pakse being filled. The government is doing that shamelessly. It is a sorrowful situation. Wimal Weerawansa and his party had opposed it and walked out of the parliamentary group meeting. He then spoke in a very subdued manner, which is very uncharacteristic of him. They acted out a drama. This was fake. The sole intention of the government is to pass these amendments through deception.
සෝදන ටිකක් ඉදිරිපත් කරලා Tamanට අවශ්‍ය දේ සිද්ධ කර ගැනීම තමයි ආණ්ඩුවේ කායන අරමුණ පරමාර්ථයේ බවට පත් වුනේ. විමල් වීරවංශ ඇතුළු ජාතික
Wimal Weerawansa and his chauvinistic group have a personal grudge. It is not one that has arisen because of the harmful and precarious situation of this amendment. He fears Basil Rajapaksa entering parliament and becoming the Prime Minister. We ask Wimal Weerawansa and his group of 6 to vote against the 20th Amendment.
අරයාව තල්ලු කරගෙන ඊළඟ ජනාධිපති පදය අපේක්ෂකයා වෙයිද? අපේ විමල් වීරවංශ ඇතුළු කණ්ඩායමට 6 දෙනාට කියනවා පුළුවන් නම් 20 වෙනි ව්‍යවස්ථා සංශෝධනයට විරුද්ධව ඡන්දය දෙන්න කියලා.
MPs of the Samagi Janabalawegaya arrived in Parliament today in a motorcade opposing the 20th Amendment to the Constitution. The group arrived at the Parliamentary complex from the opposition leader's office in Colombo.
We will do everything in our power to defeat the 20th. We will rid the country from authoritarian rule.
දැන් ඔබතුමාලට බහුතරයක් නැතුව මේක කරන්න පුළුවන් නේද? ආණ්ඩුව ඇතුළෙන්ම මේකට විරුද්ධයි. සල්ලි දීලා ගනීද ඒ කට්ටිය? එහෙම උත්සාහයක් තියෙයි.
There might be a festival like that, but as principal members of parliament, we will definitely defeat the 20th.
The group then proceeded to the office of the opposition leader in Parliament and participated in the proceedings of the House today, wearing masks and armbands stating no to destructive 20th.
I would like to state at this moment that we would amend the authoritarian dictatorial 20th Amendment with the help of the people's representatives, the country and the people, and we will definitely win our fight to form a balanced, appropriate constitution that gives power to the voices of the people.
අපි අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම ජයග්‍රහණය කරනවා කියන එක මේ අවස්ථාවේ ප්‍රකාශ කර සිටිනවා.
The March 12th movement expressed its views on the proposed amendment to the Constitution.
The 20th Amendment is not something that was requested by the people. By granting a two-thirds majority, the citizens of this country expected the President to introduce a new constitution to Sri Lanka to shape the state apparatus by clearly outlining the policies of the government. Therefore, as the March 12th movement, we believe that the country does not require a 20th Amendment. What is important is a new constitution.
මේක ආයතනයක් පරයා තවත් ආයතනයක්.
Through the 20th Amendment, one institution will be overpowering another. That will pose a challenge to the checks and balances in the country. We will have to experience both advantages and disadvantages after passing the 20th Amendment. The 18th Amendment was brought in to replace the 17th. Those who voted for the 17th voted for the 18th as well. In a contrasting move, they voted for the 19th Amendment. 215 have voted. Some of them are gearing up to vote for the 20th Amendment that is contradictory in nature to the 19th Amendment. As citizens of this country, we cannot comprehend the manner in which the public representatives in Parliament are looking at this matter.
රටේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුව නියෝජනය කරන අපේ මහජන නියෝජිතයෝ කොයි විදිහට මේවා දිහා දකින්නේ කියලා.
A number of protests were organized today opposing the 20th Amendment to the Constitution. A joint protest of trade unions was held opposite the parliamentary complex today. Today, this 20th Amendment has sparked a debate in Parliament to destroy the democratic freedom through the 20th Amendment brought forward by the 19th Amendment. We have to say that this will definitely drag the democracy of the country down a dark trench.
අද දමනවා
We have come out onto the roads to protect the democratic rights of the working people and the common people of this country. Meanwhile, the chairman of the National Steering Committee of the Samaga Jana Balabegya and several others held a puja at the Pullayar Kovil in Kandy, pleading for the 20th Amendment to be defeated.
Well, that was a comprehensive update of what happened surrounding the 20th Amendment to the Constitution. We are still not done talking about the proceedings at Parliament today. A discussion took place today regarding the opportunity given to remand prisoner Rishad Badiuddin to attend parliamentary sittings.
Yesterday, you promised that the necessary support would be given for Rishad Badiuddin to attend parliamentary sittings. We inquired about this from the prison headquarters. They informed us that he has been subjected to quarantine for 2 weeks. A PCR test can be carried out before allowing him to attend a sitting. Why is the revenge being sought in this manner? We shall inform health officials about this. Since the health minister is here, let her comment on that. Parliamentarian Premaratna was allowed to attend the sittings without undergoing quarantine. Why can't Rishad Badiuddin be allowed to attend sittings? Let's see whether the advice of health officials are being followed. If MP Jayantha Samaraweera is coming to vote, the law must apply to him as well. If Bandula Gunawardena underwent a PCR test, shouldn't he undergo quarantine for 14 days? Can he attend parliament? Some businessmen have arrived at the Trade Ministry for a discussion. The cashier of a shop from which a businessman attended the meeting had tested positive for the virus. Intelligence units informed me that I had attended this meeting. Accordingly, I underwent a PCR test. The tests have assured that I can live long without any danger.
All individuals are subjected to a 14-day quarantine period before being placed in prisons. Visitors have been barred from prisons. Prisoners are not allowed to be given meals from outside as well. I wish to state that the parliamentarian in concern will be allowed to attend parliament sittings based on medical advice after undergoing quarantine for 14 days and also a PCR test.
The parliamentary seat of the United National Party is yet to be filled. The debate on the 20th Amendment to the Constitution is being held without the representation of the United National Party. A number of ideas have been presented regarding the parliamentary seat. My personal opinion is the leader of the party, Ranil Wickremesinghe, should fill that seat. If not, a person from the list of people we have presented should be named. That is my stance. It will be decided soon. Navin Dissanayake expressed his views regarding the leadership of the party. According to the constitution of the party, the leader has to be deceased or he should resign. If none of that occurs, Ranil Wickremesinghe is the leader of the party until 2023. A number of opinions emerged from within the party regarding who should succeed him should he decide to resign. I will state this responsibly. A majority of the people agreed that Karu Jayasuriya should succeed the current leader if he resigns. When considering second-tier candidates, my name is also suggested. I am in agreement with that too. I am hopeful. I will not let go of that hope. I have engaged in politics for 20 years. I suggested if a new leader is to be chosen, he should be chosen from lower down the hierarchy. Our executive committee should be restructured. Then the leader should be chosen after consulting those in the grassroots.
Sri Lanka's geopolitics.
From internal politics, we move to Sri Lanka's geopolitics. The 8th edition of the annual Indian Navy, Sri Lanka Navy bilateral maritime exercise, STINEX 20, was staged off in Trincomalee.
The Sri Lanka Navy was represented by SLN ships Saira and Gajabahu, led by Rear Admiral Bandara Jayatilaka, the flag officer commanding the naval fleet. SLINEX 20 aims to enhance interoperability, improve mutual understanding and exchange best practices and procedures for multifaceted maritime operations between both navies. In addition, Indian Navy Advanced Light Helicopter and Chetak helicopter and a Dornier maritime patrol aircraft also participated in the exercise. The previous edition of SLINEX was conducted off Vishakhapatnam in September 2019. The exercise is being conducted in a non-contact, at-sea only format against the backdrop of COVID-19.
Meanwhile, the US State Secretary has tweeted saying he is looking forward to the upcoming trip to India, Sri Lanka, Maldives and Indonesia for productive conversations with our friends and partners and the US-India 2+2 ministerial dialogue with the US Defense Secretary and the Indian counterparts. The US State Department also confirmed that the US State Secretary will arrive in Sri Lanka. The State Department says Secretary Pompeo will travel to Colombo to underscore the commitment of the United States to a partnership with a strong, sovereign Sri Lanka and to advance our common goals for a free and open Indo-Pacific region.
MCC ගිවිසුම පිළිබඳ අපි බියක ඉන්නවා දැනුත්.
We still fear the MCC agreement. The US State Secretary is visiting Sri Lanka on the 28th. Around 74 other delegates have already arrived in Sri Lanka and are lodging at a hotel. They have not been quarantined. Facing off against the international community could affect our lives. We won't fret because of that reason. We came here knowing what we are getting ourselves into. We worked very hard to establish this government and they must fend off all these cultural and economic invasions.
ආක්‍රමණය වළක්වන්න ඕනද?
Mike Pompeo has already said that he is visiting India to contain Chinese influence in the region. So according to what we know, we can predict that the US Secretary of State is visiting the island to influence us to sign the MCC or some form of an agreement under another name. He is coming here to set the diplomatic background required to sign agreements linked to the AXA or SOFA agreements.
Pompeo Mahata,
From those views expressed regarding the USA, we now shift your attention to another story. State Minister of Money and Capital Market and State Enterprise Reforms, Ajith Niwad Cabral, in an interview with the Hindu newspaper, stated that each country works out its own financing while referring to China as the country with the most amount of cash now.
During the interview, the State Minister has noted while different countries around the world have been the ones with the most amount of cash, at present China happens to be the country with the most amount of cash, adding, quote, so China will naturally invest all over the world, unquote. The article also reveals the incumbent government has requested for a $700 million loan from China apart from an already sanctioned loan worth $500 million. Sri Lanka is also in the process of negotiating a currency swap facility amounting to nearly $1.5 billion with the People's Bank of China. State Minister Cabral has questioned as to why critics do not mention Chinese loans provided to the United States. He queries, quote, nobody says China has given $1.5 trillion worth of loans to the United States. We are talking about $700 million coming in. These are the trade practices, financing practices prevalent in the world. Each country works out their own financing agreements in line with what they feel is best for them, unquote.
Former police chief Pujit Jayasundara has said that the operation to arrest last year's terrorist attacks mastermind Zaharan Hashim had been obstructed due to the arrest of DIG Nalaka Silva, who served as the head of the Terrorist Investigation Division. In a testimony at the Presidential Commission probing last year's April 21st attacks, the former Inspector General of Police said the arrest of DIG Nalaka Silva had mentally affected all police officers in service. Meanwhile, the former IGP conceded that there was insufficient security at the St. Anthony's Church in Kochikade to prevent an attack at the location. He told investigators that only 2 police officers had been stationed near the church for security on the day of the attack. However, Jayasundara told the Commission that security was at a satisfactory level in areas such as Kalaniya, Dematagoda, Gampaha, Mirihana, Mount Lavinia and Bambalapitiya, and that certain incidents were prevented as a result of that move. The witness observed investigations carried out following the bombings had highlighted the shortcomings of the police superintendent in charge of Colombo on taking relevant action and communicating information. He pointed out that the chief police inspector had drawn his attention towards the weekly janitorial services at that time. Meanwhile, attorney-at-law Madhu Jayatilaka, appearing for DIG Nilantha Jayawardena, who served as the former director of the State Intelligence Service, raised a suggestion that the attacks could have been prevented if the witness had taken appropriate action to address these problems in his capacity as the Inspector General of Police. However, the former IGP refuted the suggestion and blamed those shortcomings on the downfall of the system.
This is ours. Sri Lanka's exclusive economic zone. $517,000 square kilometers of beautiful open ocean. Our greatest resource. 8 times our landmass. This is the Sea of Sri Lanka.
Well, that's all the news we have for you this evening, but before we go, an update: 57 more persons have tested positive for COVID-19. 1 person among them have been from a quarantine center, while 56 are close contacts. This is of course confirmed by Army Commander Lieutenant General Shavendra Silva. Thank you very much for watching. A reminder to always be safe and follow us on our social media platforms to be updated. I've been Satranga Parachi. Good night.